Hello, and I want to welcome Dr. Meg Haworth to the Butterfly Effect and all of our viewers. And she is a, tra- oh, you go ahead and share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a doctor of transpersonal psychology, a therapist, and a chef who helps people with food as well as the inner emotional root cause of illness. So basically, I focus on the connection between trauma and how the body holds trauma and illness, and how those things are interconnected, but also how you can release the energy at the core of it all.
Yeah.
That's like the basic.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
if you'd like to, I'd love for you to share kind of like what led you to this journey of, is this something that you were always aware of, like the spiritual aspect and working with energy, or is it something that, you got guided to? How did you get to where you're at now?
Well, actually, that question being kind of a two-parter, it is something I've always known and felt and understood, but it's also my life experience and how it fed into everything I do now. So basically, I always knew and could feel things and know things and just had this high intuitive sense, but I didn't understand that other people didn't have that connection to their intuition. And I often attribute it to I drowned when I was 2. And so it was a near-death experience at a very young age that I think made me have that gift, more so than the average person would.
Yeah.
So there was that. And then all through my 20s, I was sick. And so I was in and out of doctor's offices. And finally, I found a Washingtonian magazine article, because I'm from DC, that talked about alternative medicine. And I thought to myself, I could barely hold up the magazine. I was in so much pain when I was reading this article.
Yeah.
And it clicked with me, like, oh, wait, chiropractic care will be great for so-and-so in my life. And then I was like, wait a minute, what about me? I'm in so much pain and I'm not helping myself.
Yeah.
So that's when I started down the path of alternative medicine and using different types of alternative healers to heal over a dozen illnesses, from ulcers and migraines and irritable bowel and depression and severe spasms in my neck and upper back from scoliosis and a ruptured disc in my neck. I mean, I was basically a wreck in my 20s when most people are out just having fun,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you, shared a little bit about like you stumbled upon the chiropractic thing and you're like thinking about it for somebody else, right? And then you realize, well, wait, what about me? Because so often a lot of people, similar to us, they are always in search of how they can support other people and don't necessarily do the things to support themselves. And sometimes it's hard to like give ourselves that love and really look at like what we can do to support ourselves. And I think a lot of people who have that sensitivity can relate to that. Would you care to share a little bit more of like your sensitivity and stuff?
Yeah. I think the sensitivity is what has made me who I am today, and has made me a really effective healer. Because we often look at sensitivity as something that indicates a weakness, but it's so much a strength. Feeling someone else's pain, for instance, is being able to empathize with them in a way that a lot of people can't. Yeah. And that's necessary when you're a healer, to help other people heal, to be able to really connect into what is that person experiencing.
Yeah.
Because holding somebody's hand through the experience of going from sickness to wellness, that's a powerful sensitivity, such a powerful force to have.
I think for me, like, it was really challenging for me. I don't think I really ever understood it for most of my life, but as I've started to do the work and really, it's a gift, but it's like you get to kind of like learn how to use it as a gift to support people. But before that, it was so challenging for me because I didn't really understand. I didn't understand or know that was like a sensitivity, like, that I was going through. When did you make, like, when did you recognize what that was, and that it was a gift for you, that you could support people with it?
Yeah, that took a long time to figure out, because so many people would criticize me and say, oh, you're just so sensitive,
Yeah.
So it took, into my healing journey, and I think really going through my transpersonal psychology program, it really helped me understand that no, this sensitivity is a huge gift, and it's something that you will help yourself with first, and then help others with. And there's so much about learning how to use that in a way that's empowering for self and others.
Yeah, I think it's challenging for a lot of people, especially men. Like, I know there's a lot of men who are just like, I've, just through stuff that I've done, been able to like support men, and I could feel, then you could feel when you share, like, it's with them that, like, I think you have the gift of sensitivity, and you can feel sometimes that's just, that word can be triggering for them because of the way it's viewed in the world, as it's bad to be sensitive. And I, just like you, were told probably that you're too sensitive all the time, and it doesn't make you feel good. This journey for me, and what, like, I want to support people in, and what we get to support people in is accepting that part of themselves, and learning that they get to love that part and use it as a powerful tool, and know that, they get to love that aspect of themselves. There was a few things that you shared with me that I really wanted to bring up. I think there was something that you shared with me about fibromyalgia, and there's a few things that there's a lot of women out there that I know are struggling with a lot of, like, things, just because of, ultimately it stems from the trauma that we go through. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about some of the things that you've learned through your process of healing and supporting yourself and other people.
Yeah, my journey led me to understand that what happens to us in childhood, particularly, but any kind of trauma along the way, can affect our physical bodies it's often through the emotional, mental, and the beliefs that we hold, the energy around that, and how we hold it in our bodies, and how those traumas can be linked to illnesses later. So that's actually the crux of the work that I do, is helping people release that emotional root cause of illness and trauma, and how the body's holding it in a very unique way. That's, really different than a lot of the things out there. And what I get to watch, it's amazing. I watched diseases disappear in my clients, because we got to that moment in time where the child gets frozen, that inner child gets frozen in this experience and in this belief, that I'm not lovable, for instance, because, your father beat you regularly. And of course, that a child is going to think, I'm not lovable, there's something really wrong with me. They're not going to think there's something really wrong with my father, and he's emotionally incapable, because his inner child is reacting, acting and reacting, typically. There's all different reasons why dad becomes abusive, but the point is that we go through these experiences and we hold them energetically in our bodies, And then we start acting and reacting accordingly. But we can release that energy. We can release those thoughts, feelings, and beliefs when we really talk to that part of the self, that emotion that gets stuck, the shame, the fear, the guilt, the sorrow that gets stuck in our bodies. And I'm coming to this from having over a dozen illnesses, as I mentioned before, but I also was sexually, physically, and emotionally abused as a child.
Yeah.
So I started to make all of these connections as I went through my healing journey, and it fascinated me that we can hold these experiences in our bodies and how we do it, and then how do we unlock it? How do we let it go? And how do we create health in the body from that place? You know, we look at thoughts and everything we do, we look at thought creates everything. You know, your smartphone, a thought created that first. It was thought up first, and then eventually it became this thing. But we don't think of the physical body in this way. And I think we're doing ourselves a disservice by not thinking about, where did this originate from? What are the thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and the experience that started this whole train that led to your cancer, that led to your autoimmune disease? Or fibromyalgia, you mentioned that. That's one of the diseases that I had. And there's a connection between fibromyalgia and particularly childhood sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And it's not just that all the time, but that helped me so much to understand, you know, fibromyalgia is very painful, and it's like you're holding this pain very intensely, and you're holding this energy because you're trying to protect yourself. And that's what I help people release, is that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely know I've came across quite a few people who are really young. They have all of these things going on, and, you know, they don't really understand, I mean, where it even came from. And I think a lot of our modern day doctors don't really even know how to heal this stuff. And through the process of doing this type of work, like, it's possible to heal a lot of this stuff. And that's why, I mean, like, my heart is just so happy every time I connect with somebody who's been able to overcome some of these things, because it's powerful, this work that we get to do. It's extremely powerful. And it's not, we don't have to take a bunch of medications to calm down the symptoms. It's like we get to the root of the issue, and we get to heal internally and know that we're not our diseases that, like, we've taken on, and all of the stuff that we've created through the traumatic events and how we've perceived things in life. And it's so important, the work that you're doing. I just am so, it's just, I'm in awe that the connections that I've been able to make on this journey. It's just the beautiful people and the way that I get to connect with people. And it's just, thank you for being on this journey. Oh, one thing that I love that you shared with me about was you actually used to be a chef.
Yeah, I still do chef work. I love it. And I'm a holistic chef, so everything's organic. I tailor diets for specific conditions, and I still do that in coaching and consulting with people all over the world with that. Too, you know, so somebody will come to me with a list of 25 things they can't eat, and they don't know what to eat. So I help them figure out recipes so that they can eat something that they enjoy, and also help them feel better. Because food is so critical, you know, because it's sort of the baseline of what we use to support our biology. And as I know, you know, our food supply is there's so much poison in our food supply. The way that we make the foods, like if a corporation is cooking for you, your likelihood of developing a chronic illness is like so much greater, you know, because processed foods in the corporate setting, you know, in a factory setting are we know so much about how toxic they can be to the body.
Yeah.
And if you've got toxic food plus toxic thought,
yeah,
that's like the perfect storm for disease in the body.
but they so go hand in hand. Like for me, like I was eating my emotions, like to like just food was soothing for me because I was going through so many emotions. So
Yeah.
ultimately, like not always choosing the right things and holding on to a lot of the energy from it. But yeah, the stuff that is out there, and of course it's more easier to get a hold of and afford, is the stuff that's not at all beneficial for our bodies. The amount of like nutrients, because everything is energy. So if you think about it, I mean, like I know like it's like the food that we choose that's supposed to be fueling and helping our body to do stuff is really just weighing us down and adding to the pain that's in our body.
Yeah, and I've seen a correlation over the years because I've been doing this work for like 25 years.
Yeah.
And I see the correlation between toxic thoughts and feelings and being attracted to eating that kind of food. So if you think about vibration and energy and how like attracts like, so that's one of the places where you're just like, you're thinking about, eating Doritos and, I used to back in the day because I was a junk food junkie.
Yeah.
Part of what led to all my diseases.
Yeah.
I would take Doritos and Betty Crocker frosting, like chocolate frosting, and just use that as a dip because Doritos, it was like the chocolate and the sweet and the.
I love it. I'm sure people will relate there with their stuff. I'm sure, like I've totally had those things where it's like those weird things. Like they might be weird to some people, but they're so perfect for you in the moment and how you're feeling, right? And what led you to getting on that journey of like working with food?
Yeah, well, it was when the chiropractor I went to, after I read that article in Washingtonian magazine, she sent me to a nutritionist and to a yoga instructor and to a massage therapist. So she really started getting me into the holistic place. And the nutritionist said, in 98% of the people she saw with irritable bowel syndrome, and mind you, this was 1996, she said that if you eliminate gluten, dairy, and sugar, processed foods, food chemicals, she said, it's going to go away. And so I did all of that. And for the most part, it went away. Within a week, I was like a whole different person.
Yeah.
After eliminating those old foods and then eating real food, basically. But what happened is I still had high anxiety and fear, and was still having issues with constipation that I could tell was more emotional and not so much food related. So that's what I had to work on next. And that's really how I kind of got to see, well, once I took care of the food situation, I could see what was really going on in my body as a result of the emotional situation. In the way I was holding on to these old traumas. Yeah.
Is there any particular things you'd like to share that are foods that have been supportive? Because I know there has to be some great tips that you have for people that they could take away that they could start implementing in their life as far as what foods might be beneficial for some things that, just certain areas of our body or whatever you has been really effective in implementing in your journey.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at how many foods aren't good for certain conditions. Like kidney disease, you don't want to eat spinach. And you think, why wouldn't I want spinach? It's got iron and calcium and vitamins and minerals, and but it's high in oxalates, so it can create problems with the formation of kidney stones. So I think it's important to know that what may work for me may not work for you. But what I find repeatedly is when you focus on whole foods, real fruits and vegetables, organic foods. And, I still have a sweet tooth. I was raised by parents from the South. I mean, I grew up on sweet tea and, all that. So, I'll make things like a vegan chocolate pudding from avocado and raw cacao and stevia with a little bit of honey, because I find that really makes it taste better, and that gives me additional nutrition and medicine from the honey.
Yeah.
And so, and that's like one of my favorite, and a little bit of coconut milk in that, or almond milk. It's one of my favorite things to eat, and I feel so satisfied, and it satisfies my sweet tooth, and I feel like I had something simple when I didn't. So things like that, or frozen banana with some cacao in a blender, and you've got ice cream, chocolate ice cream, some nuts and sea salt on that, and oh my gosh, that's so good. So there's all kinds of ways to get things. Roasting vegetables, roasted Brussels sprouts are so good. I've worked with children who will eat them up like potato chips. They taste so good. And you wouldn't think you would necessarily, but they do. And you can roast really just about anything. A little olive oil, salt, pepper, and garlic powder, those three things together, and you can just create miracles of flavor in your kitchen with the flavor of nature,
Yeah, I definitely enjoy roasting stuff. Roasting and barbecuing, I think, are two of my go-tos to add seasoning or flavors to things that, it's not where you're going to have to add a bunch of stuff to it, like a bunch of extra stuff, and still stay on the healthier side.
Yeah.
I kind of want to shift back to a little bit more of the energy stuff. And I was just wondering if there's any moments along your journey that you had a shift, any of those big moments for yourself where you can act, anything that comes up right now is what I would love for you to share. Those moments where your life shifted because of being on this journey and doing this work.
Oh my gosh. There were so many, but the one that really stands out in my mind is about 5.5 years ago, I was struck by lightning on Venice Beach, California. And it changed my life. I was very successful doing the chef work for celebrities in Hollywood. And I was about to take on a new big client that week. And, I had this whole financial plan all mapped out. I was all excited. And I had to stop everything. I was put on disability. It damaged 3 areas of my brain, the nerves and muscles in my legs, a disc in my lower back. And so I had what I called the ultimate timeout from the universe, where it really made me sit and think. And the first question I really asked myself was, are you living the greatest service to humanity that you can? And my immediate answer was no. No, I had this whole PhD in transpersonal psychology that I wasn't using in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why is that just sitting there? That doesn't make any sense to me. And this was the opportunity that I took. And the universe was like, you're going to sit down and do this now, honey, is kind of what, what I felt from it. And that turning point moment had me put it all together so that, I'm talking about food and the power of the mind to heal the body, and that it's all one. Your mental, emotional, physical, and energetic / spiritual, it's all one thing.
Yeah.
And any part of that gets neglected in the process keeps you from healing completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you had that little nudge. We're always getting guidance in life, and I'm sometimes it looks a little insane, but it's crazy that you those two experiences that you've had, I'm sure they were big, monumental, the one when you're 2, and that getting hit by lightning. Those are things that you don't hear every day that people go through, but just seeing you here and seeing you share how it's actually really supported your journey, I think that's just so supportive of other people, hearing that like they're not letting these little things hit them down or feel like it's hindering them in any way. But you turned it around and used it to do the work that you're here to do, to support the world.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. That's just such a critical piece, is to know that whatever your challenge is in front of you, that one of the most powerful things you can do is make a decision about your challenge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just decide. And that's the thing I did over and over again. I decided that I'm going to overcome these lightning injuries and I'm going to create this new life for myself.
Yeah.
You know, and that wasn't easy. You know, it's one step at a time every day. But it was one of the most powerful things I ever did. So I wouldn't go back and change that lightning strike.
Yeah.
You know, so, and, you know, whatever your lightning strike is, whether it's MS or cancer or diabetes or heart disease or kidney disease or fibromyalgia, that all of those things, if you just start with a decision, you know, like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to heal this. I'm going to work with my holistic system. I'm going to release the energy that's at the bottom of this. That the power just amps up, because now, as you know, then you start receiving the people, the messages, the books, all the things that can come to you to help you heal those things. Yeah. They just start showing up, you know?
Yeah, being open to receiving, you know, when you're ready, we have that there. And it's true, like we attract these things into our life that are for us, that are here to support us on this journey. And I love what you just shared. I felt it all over my body. This journey that we're on is just, it's magical. It really is. When you've lived like disconnected and, you know, that opposite side of the spectrum of like really more of like the victim, and then shifting into that journey of healing and more of empowering yourself and knowing that you're whatever you've gone through, that you get to like use it to empower yourself and heal.
Yeah.
You get to heal.
Yeah.
And it's more about shedding stuff that's not serving us anymore and really creating our future, or creating in the present moment. But, you know, I think that's one thing that people get caught up in, like the past or the future. And, you know, I think it's just being present is so valuable, because we miss out on so much when we aren't able to be present with each other.
Yeah, it's so true. And the choice you make right now today influences your future. So whatever that choice is, you know, whether it's to sit and do nothing or to remain in that victim place, which I was in for a long time. And for a long time, I didn't even realize it. It was just sort of like, I'm the victim of all these awful things, you know?
Yeah.
So
I can relate.
When I did start to realize, yeah, right?
Yeah.
You know how it is, though, when you do start to realize and you think, okay, I can make a different choice here. I don't have to remain a slave to this way of thinking.
Yeah.
So, and that's powerful. That's a powerful way to think about it.
Yeah. I think, for me, going and being guided to pranic healing and getting on this journey, it really kind of made me see things from a different perspective. Like the way that I was viewing things and the way that I was kind of being in that victim role. Like, even though I didn't think that I was the victim, I would blame people, like, or I would say other people were being a victim. But really, it's on this journey we get to like expand our awareness on like we're human. We are always gonna be realizing those moments that we still do it. Like we still get to like recognize when we're doing these things, because we're human and we're always gonna have different experiences. And It's just amazing what we can really do when we become aware.
Yeah, it's so true.
Well, is there anything
It's
else?
so true. And I think I think the path of healing is becoming more and more aware, more and more conscious, you
Yeah,
know, more and more present to all these different parts of yourself that you may not have been aware of before. So,
yeah,
and so you asked if there was anything else. Um, I wanted to just say a little bit about this technique that I created, whole person integration technique, that
yeah.
helps people release the emotional energy that's held in the body.
Mhm.
And it's just been such a powerful thing to watch people release things like to release their cancer,
Yeah,
to, you know, and it's the interrelationship between those things. It's not, this wasn't the only thing they did necessarily, but it was
yeah,
a piece of it, you know. So yeah, so since this whole conversation really that we're on the butterfly effect is about energy,
yeah,
to know that thoughts are energy, you know,
yeah, for sure.
inside without your knowing, you know, that's where you can find a lot of the keys to the unlock your wellness, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I might have like missed a little bit of like right after you said thoughts are energy. I kind of like broke up a little bit. Do you want to share what you just said after you said thoughts are energy?
Yeah, so thoughts are energy, emotions are energy, and we hold them in our bodies. So we can release that energy, but so much of it we don't know what we're really holding on to.
Yeah,
So you have to go into the unconscious mind, and that's really what my technique helps people do is get into that unconscious
yeah,
very quickly and very easily to help them release it. So
yeah.
yeah.
Were you, did you want to share a little bit about how you do that? Like just touch on it a little bit? You said to bring, like to bring the
Yeah, you know, yeah, absolutely. So anybody listening, if there's a particular emotion that you're going through or that you feel like you cycle in it a lot, like you might go to anger really quickly, you might go to sadness really quickly, you might go to fear really quickly. So just kind of think about the emotion that really comes up for you and that has the most charge for you. Or it may just be in relationship to something that's going on in your life right now, you know? And then close your eyes and take a deep breath and then scan your body. And where are you feeling that emotion in your body? You know, like, oh, wow, I'm feeling it in my stomach. Oh, okay. Well, your stomach's your center of personal power. And so that emotion is churning in there. It's got its own thoughts, feelings, beliefs. It's got its own narrative that you may not really know much about at all.
yeah,
It may seem familiar to you in a way, but it's got its own thing. It's called the body mind, and it's really the unconscious mind is the body mind. It's what you don't know about what's going on inside your body, but what your body knows.
yeah,
So, um, so yeah, so just take that moment and really just feel like, so you can start to understand, like, oh, that's where I'm holding the energy.
mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm holding it in my head and I'm getting a little headache from this anger, you know, or I'm holding it in my throat. So, yeah, so and then that's what we would work with is understanding that emotional energy, that guilt, that shame, that fear, that sadness.
Yeah,
And we would let it have its day to speak.
yeah. I think it's so important that you shared that because so many people, like, especially people who haven't really been on this journey, they link it to other things. They're not sure, like, why they have, stomach aches or like pain in what we would call the solar plexus, and just all those areas that it's not always like what you're eating or, you know, for whatever reason, sometimes these things are linked to other things and exactly what, you know, processes can support and releasing. So I think, and it's amazing what we get to do with this work.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Is there anything that your heart feels called to share that you haven't had a chance to share yet?
I would just say the big thing is take your healing into your own hands. Begin to listen to your intuition, your inner voice, because it's there as your guidance system to help you figure out what's best for you. So,
Yeah. Thank you. And then I think that you had a course or a program that you wanted to offer. Did you want to share a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, I'm going to be offering an intuitive development coaching program. And I've been doing this one-on-one for years, and I've done classes, but now I'm doing a group coaching online with people all over the world. And there's one coming up in February I'm really excited to be doing. And it helps you get in touch with, understand the different types of intuition, how you're using them, and you don't even know how you're using them, because it's so normal, what your strengths are in that area and how to expand them and use them to help your life. So, yeah. And then if you want information, just go to meghaworth.com. So meghaworth.com. And there's 3 free gifts right up front for you as well, right there. So.
I think it's great. I mean, so many people don't know what their intuition is even or how to use it. So that's so great that you get to support people through that process. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for connecting with me, connecting with our audience, and offering the value that you've brought into your life here on this summit. I just really appreciate you, and I appreciate your heart, and just thankful that you allowed me to share it and through this connection.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited just to be a part of helping people. So, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again. And I appreciate you.
You too.